AM 1220, KHTS, your hometown station. I am T, here with you on Thursdays from noon to 1 with something we call Dr. Proctor, a chance to peek over the shoulders of the medical community, an opportunity to talk about what goes on in medicine, in all the support services of medicine. And today I'm talking with Lisa Solis DeLong. She's not just a nurse. She's someone I personally look up to. I consider her to be a friend. Over the years, I first met Lisa. We had the opportunity to sit across from one another over a show talking about taking care of kids with medical issues. My son is a now 19-year-old boy with autism. He has tremendous struggles. He's making it work to the best of his ability. At the time, Lisa Solis DeLong had come in and was talking about her story with her children who had medical issues. We open up the first part of this segment talking about her son, Justin, who Lisa became a nurse when she was very, very young, right out of high school, helping others, bringing that compassion to the world. And then her world got very insular and very small because then her nursing services brought her right back home when Justin, her son, was diagnosed with leukemia at the age of 5. He went into what was considered a success story over really almost a decade, Lisa?
Yep. Yes.
And then you got the phone call that after the entire family had experienced the flu, that his cancer had returned.
His cancer was back, and it was back with a much more aggressive nature. And he went through 5 months of the hardest chemo he'd ever had, and was actually being prepared for a bone marrow transplant when he died very suddenly as a result of ARDS, which is adult respiratory distress syndrome, which caused heart failure. So it was a powerful and painful and devastating experience. And I learned so much about myself, and this was 15 years ago. So Justin died on July 15th, 2000. So at the age of 15. So it was just a couple weeks after his 15th birthday. So there was so much emotion. And at the time, Jacob, our youngest, was 9 months old when Justin died, and it was grief. Anyone who's experienced devastating loss understands this. It really does crack you open. You see sides of yourself that you didn't know existed, and that was certainly the case for me going through that process. I want to say not easier, but more aware because of my nursing background. I had seen people die. I had seen people grieve. I knew that bad things happen to good people sometimes, and so I wasn't naive to that. So when it happened to me, that awareness, I think, helped me kind of step back and look at myself, that I'm no different than anyone else. There's this kind of thing can happen to anyone.
And you guys went through this very publicly, because here your husband was a beloved track and field coach. Mm-hmm. You lived right near the high school. Mm-hmm. The whole family was involved with the high school. And here you had a young man who had had this success story and was getting ready to go into high school, and everybody knew it. Yeah. This was then an outpouring of the community, as I recall, that all came around you, because he was everybody's boy.
Yeah, Justin was definitely the golden child of the family, and really the golden child of our community. He was known for his smile, his upbeat nature. He's so agreeable, and he was a good student and a good athlete, and he's just, there was nothing unlovable about him, honestly, and
we had all the best qualities of you and your husband.
Well, he just, there's some, you have kids, and my kids know this because I've said it so many times, they each have their own gifts, and I love each one of my children just so much. In fact, I love them more because of Justin's passing. I see there's just nothing unlovable about them, But Justin being the first really set the tone for our family. Of it was a high standard, that all of us to try to be as kind-hearted and positive as he was. But and so his death was I can say this now. I couldn't have said it that when this was fresh, but it really was an opportunity for us to grow. And I really see that, having now experienced being with other dying children in the professional setting, in the grief work that I've done, not as a hospice nurse. I've never worked as a hospice nurse, but I have been with other children who have had cancer, who have died. And there's a peacefulness about them. There's a composure. It seems to be, to me, it's definitely a spiritual existence. It's their soul plan, their soul's mission, and they come at it very often in a very, very mature and old soul way.
Yes, I've noticed that there is something almost otherworldly about them, because they still have their roots so close to heaven that sometimes I think that for them they have an understanding that as we grow further and further away from that, we lose sight of it, and maybe that's where fright comes in. So the family, you had to regroup. You had to gather. You had to grow from this terrible fire. Different flowers grew. What was the next step of this journey for you? Because here you had to recover from that. Mm-hmm. You had to move forward. Again, you had to find a new normal. Did you return to work after Justin's passing?
I did not. I could not step foot in a hospital. I could not handle the responsibility of that I was talking about earlier, that risk that you take of being in charge of other people's lives. Really, I couldn't do it. I looked to the Jewish tradition, actually, and gave myself a full year off. I thought, I don't know how to do this grief thing. All I know is I'm dead inside. I'm broken. All I want to do is die.
And you still had to be a mother to 3 other children.
Yes, and a wife, and both of us grieving. My husband grieving, and I didn't know how to do all that. But I had the sense that I could stay home, just do nothing. I didn't volunteer for anything. I just completely took care of Jacob, and made the discovery that grief can make you pretty crazy. I remember once Jacob crawling around the floor in my house. It was just him and I. The girls and Dave were gone at school, and I looked at him and I thought, I am not going to love this baby. I'm just not going to do it. I can't
go through this again.
I don't ever want to love that big again. And in that moment, Jacob crawled up on my lap and slapped me across the face as hard as he could, because I kept staring at Justin's portrait, and the little guy just pulled up and just hauled off, just whacked
you
across
right
my
in the face.
And I remember he grabbed my cheeks, and he kept making me look at him. It's like he was reading my mind. And I know he couldn't talk because he was just a baby, but he said, I know. He said, "Love me. I'm here.
Good boy.
Love me."
You took the year off in the Jewish tradition, and the little one got the chutzpah to smack
That's right. That's right. Thank God. And so from that point on, I started looking at my grief as like, I have choices here.
Yeah.
I can focus on what I don't have. I can stay there, or I can focus on what I do have. And it really was an awareness. And I really think that the nursing background and training, because we get training in, psych and all these different things, and dealing with loss, it really helped me to step back and be a witness to my life. From there, I went 3 years later, I started feeling like I care about other people again. 3 years. Okay. So anybody out there listening who's in the grief, right now, just know that it takes time, and
give yourself permission.
And just ignore anyone that says, I can't believe you're not over it yet. What's wrong with you? No. Feel what you got to feel, and explore what's there.
Do the learn internal from Jacob DeLong.
Yes, right.
Smack him across the face.
That's right. Hopefully, don't go smacking people, but look at yourself and do exactly. Do the internal work. I did a lot of internal searching over the last 15 years, and the spiritual connections I have with my son are more powerful now than I had ever imagined they could be, and
then something changed again.
So I went into nonprofit work at the 4-year mark, and I was the family outreach coordinator for the Michael Hoffman Foundation. I had such a strong calling.
Which, for the uninitiated, the Michael Hoffman Foundation was started by a family who lost a child to cancer.
Exactly. And so that was really my longing at that point. Was I have a correction. I did go back to mother baby nursing for 1 year, and all I wanted to do was talk about death. It was a terrible place to be.
Yeah, you major group killer.
Yeah. So
get her out of this ward.
Yeah, this is not going to work. So anyways, so so grateful to be working with newly diagnosed families. I started a bereavement group. I was very sensitive to the needs of the bereaved. And while I was working for the Michael Hoffman Foundation, I was actually at the arcade night that we put on at the time, when I got the call that Jacob, who was then 6 years old, also had leukemia.
Now, were there signs? Did you see things? Or I would think, this is just me projecting, but I would think that the moment the next child became sick, I would put on the blinders. No, I'm making it up. I'm going back to that time. I don't want to see this.
Oh, totally. I remember walking out of the arcade and sitting on the grass, literally collapsing on the grass and thinking, this cannot be possible. I've done everything right.
And when I met you, I remember I said to you, of the great stories of the Bible, to me, your story is of a biblical nature. People say, where are the miracles? And I cannot listen to that. I just think people are maybe writing them down so fast and furious. We're not recognizing them as such. Lisa Solis DeLong, I still believe to this day that yours was a story of biblical nature. God gave you one son and took one son, and now you have a second son, your only other son. And it happens again?
Yeah.
Was it the same? Tell me about what was the difference in disease?
So when we got composed enough, the next day, Dave and I were making the same drive down to Children's Hospital Los Angeles, which is it's such a great hospital. It's wonderful. We're so lucky to have a satellite CHLA here, people.
Yes, please.
And now City of Hope as well, because Justin was treated at City of Hope, and we're so lucky to have this great kind of care. I just want to plug that in, because as I travel around the country and I see the lengths people go to get good health care, it is astounding to me how far they have to drive, especially in rural communities. Rural health care is a really, they have huge challenges. So just, if you're ever, driving through traffic or standing in a line, or something doesn't get approved and you're angry about it, just be grateful that you have a place that's so close. And Santa Clarita having these wonderful satellites.
And now, so here you are again. You're going through the same process again. You're seeing the doctors. You're putting him through treatment again. At what point did things change for him physically as you're going through the very same journey?
Oh, it was devastating. Jacob was on treatment for 5 months when he developed a condition called VOD, veno-obstructive disease, as a result of liver toxicity. And he very, very nearly died. And the doctor before the night, he sat us down and said, if things don't change tonight, you need to prepare yourselves. He is not likely to survive. And I was so devastated by that. I walked down the hall of Children's Hospital. I looked out this giant window, could see the Hollywood sign, could see people walking down below on Sunset Boulevard, buzzing life. And I said, what the hell am I doing in here again? I cannot do this again. And I raised my fist to God and I said, quit picking on my boys. And I wept. And in that moment, I had a sense of peace pour over me from the top of my head to the crown of my feet. And I knew that Jacob would live. I just knew it in my bone marrow. I knew.
And how old is this beautiful boy now?
He's 6 years old. Oh, he's 16.
He's 16 years old.
16. So that night, everything turned. The medical team came in, could not believe it. They all expected him not to make it through the night. And I'm here to say I've lived both. I've lived the death experience of one son, and I've seen the miraculous life-saving events and witnessed both. And so that's my perspective. It's all of it. We're all in all of it.
Now, all of your experiences, all that you've been through as a nurse, as a mother, as a caregiver, led you to write a book. You can find Blood Brothers. It's a beautiful book about the story of these two boys and what this family went through and who Lisa is. You can find the book at, where can they get the book?
It's on Amazon. The easiest way to find it is to go to Amazon and put in Blood Brothers DeLong, and it'll pop up, because you don't want to get Blood Brothers like vampires and war stories. So put in DeLong and it pops up correctly.
It's a whole different thing.
You'll see a totally different cover.
Darn leukemia. How come no vampires ever get leukemia?
Right,
What's up with that?
Hey, and zombies and all those other
That's right. And so you sat down, and as part of a different process for you, you've had the grief, you've had the anger, you sat down at the computer, and this came to be. Blood Brothers came to be, written by Lisa Solis DeLong, a memoir of faith and loss while raising two sons with cancer. What led you to the keyboard?
Passion. I had learned so much from my sons and from other dying children, I should say, and grieving children, but dying children, messages that were just too important to me that I couldn't keep to myself. I thought I couldn't have this biblical life, a life of this biblical proportion, like you said. It is. I can't keep it all to myself. It just needs to be of service to others on the planet. And so when Jacob got well enough, I remember very often sitting by the bathtub when he was in there soaking because his bones were hurting, and he spent a lot of time in the bathtub. And I would sit there with my computer on the floor and just write. And I took a writing class at COC because I didn't have any writing experience. And then from that, I went to UCLA Extension, and I took writing courses there, and eventually put it all together. And I self-published, so it was a big learning curve. And I love writing. I've always loved writing. So it brought me back to another of my first loves, really. Speaking and writing and drama were things I was really into in junior high. Didn't see that at all coming in my life when I started nursing, got married. And
when you see it all in the bouillabaisse, you go, oh, hey, this was all prepping me for where I am now.
Exactly.
So now, again, I say author, Blood Brothers, again, available on Amazon. Just look you can Google or go to Amazon and put in Blood Brothers DeLong, DELONG. In addition to the writing, you're speaking.
Yes. And also, I just wanted to plug that my book is now required reading at COC, their School of Nursing. I'm so proud of that. Yes. So thank you, School of Nursing at COC. And so speaking happened because of the book. So I had opportunities to share the book. I went, Leukemia and Lymphoma Society events and American Cancer Society. So I started, and also hospice nurses and hospice agents, organizations were interested in my story. So I had opportunities to stand before audiences and start talking about it. And that really reignited that, oh my gosh, I love speaking. I used to do this when I was in junior high. and it felt so good to share a message that was so meaningful and that really resonated with so many people, because we all have grief, all of us in degrees, whether it's a loved one or a job or a relationship or an image of what we thought we were, all of it. And so and that's why I love speaking around the topic of grief and returning to a place of joy. So,
okay, to that end, there's a blog, Grief Dance.
Yes, this is something I just started 2 days ago, literally. So I'm starting a blog about dancing because I love to dance, and I discovered dancing through the Dancing with Our Stars events here in Santa Clarita. I volunteered for the Michael Hoffman Foundation several years ago, and that's when I learned the cha-cha, and I fell in love with dancing. And thankfully, Jacob at that point was finished with his maintenance therapy, and I really needed something outside of the cancer, of staring at him all the time, looking at him like, are you going to live? Are you going to live? Like, is everything okay? And so between writing and dancing, I really have found my happy place. And so this blog opportunity became apparent to me just recently because I'm celebrating my birthday in April. I'm going to be 55. And I just found a new dance place out in LA. It's called Soho Dance LA, and it's the biggest dance venue in all of Los Angeles County. And I have never belonged to a dance studio before. I have taken wonderful lessons here at DeWilfrey Dance and been social ballroom dancing around the LA area. But I have the luxury right now of being able to say I can take private lessons. And so I committed to that. And then the teacher that I was working with said, hey, how'd you like to compete in a pro-am in Miami?
So I'm reading the words now. International Hustle Salsa Congress, Miami, yes. April 29th, your 55th birthday. So you're doing this.
I'm doing it because I'm like, what? It's on my birthday weekend? How could I say no? Like, I have to do this.
It's kismet.
Exactly.
All right. So if you'd like to read that, it's griefdance.wordpress.com. We're talking with Lisa Solis DeLong. Again, she is a mother. She's a nurse. She's an author. She's a speaker, a dancer, apparently, too, yes. Now. You can get her book at on Amazon.com. Just look for Blood Brothers DeLong. I'm super happy to know that you are required reading this book at COC School of Nursing. That's a tremendous honor. We're gonna get ready to take a break. If you'd like to reach out and learn more about Lisa, in addition to the book, you can go to the blog that she started, griefdance.wordpress.com. You can also friend her on Facebook, which is it's LS DeLong is how they find you, or Lisa Solis DeLong.
Lisa Solis DeLong is my name on Facebook.
All right, and then when we come back from the break, we're gonna talk a bit. You're gonna be talking at TEDx at COC, which is coming up in a short time, and I know you were at several hospital locations throughout Los Angeles. If you have an opportunity to hear her speak, to hear her story, to read the book, it really is a tremendous story about, truly faith. Yes, loss, but faith, and the idea, as I've said to you before personally, I feel like it's a story of biblical proportions, because there are miracles, and from fire comes growth, and great pain, and tremendous joy, and I think you're an incredible story. We'll be back after these messages with Dr. Proctor here on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. AM 1220 KHTS, your hometown station. I am T. I do this every Thursday, noon to 1. Dr. Proctor, an opportunity to look over the shoulders of the medical community and the support staff and the people who help keep us well, get us well. And for the most part, us being our own best advocates, for me, is the best possible thing we can do. Sometimes that means having the conversations that they're not the things that people want to talk about, but I think it's critically important. And with me today is Lisa Solis DeLong, the author of Blood Brothers. She's a nurse, she's a mother, she is a speaker. She is going to be here in Santa Clarita. You'll have an opportunity to hear her. I recommend you get her book. And again, this is one of the conversations I feel that's not the most comfortable for people to talk about, but I think it's critically important that we have these conversations, because I know, I've said before, there's talk of all of us. I don't like separation, and I say that when you peel away the skin, we're all these tender little pink planets. That's it. That's all we are.
It's true.
And if we don't take care of that, if we don't take care of one another, what good are we? And you are, again, a woman I look up to for so many reasons, and I'm grateful for the rest of the world that they have the opportunity to hear your stories that have been painful. Lisa, again, her book, Blood Brothers, a memoir of faith and loss while raising not one, two sons with cancer. And it was like a decade apart, right?
Mm-hmm.
When
Yes.
you lost one son and had the second diagnosis. It led you to write the book. It led you to become very involved as a bereavement facilitator. And we'll have an opportunity to hear you here in the Valley. Tell me a little bit about what's coming at the TEDx COC.
Well, I won't be speaking at the actual event. It's looking like I'll have an opportunity to talk about what happens when you give a TED Talk at the night before the meet and greet.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't have a set date on that. That just got changed just before I walked in here, actually.
Okay.
So I'm super excited about, though, because I did give a TED Talk. It's called Changing the Face of Death. And you can Google it. Changing the Face of Death DeLong. We'll pop that up for you. And it really is, it has been a pivotal event in my life. Because of that TEDx talk, I was invited to a speakers bureau that's based in Pensacola, Florida, called Studer Group. It's a leadership and management and healthcare company. And they now send me all over the country to speak to healthcare professionals, both small, whether it's a small workshop or thousands of people in the audience. It's awesome. I love it. I love them. The work they do is so important. And it gives me an opportunity to tell my story in a new way. And so, it's just interesting that when the book came out, I got some speaking experience, and then that led me to TEDx, and then that led me to now this awesome healthcare organization that's here in the United States, Canada, and New Zealand. And so I keep growing into those roles. Sometimes I go in going, I don't know what the heck I'm doing, but I'm showing up. Here I go.
Be fearless.
Because the story is too important. Again, I've had all this valuable experience and all this wisdom that came through dying children, and I can't just keep that to myself. So I just keep showing up. That's the best
I'm
we can
grateful
do.
for you.
Yeah.
And now, if we friend you on Facebook, you can find her, Lisa Solis DeLong, the middle name Solis between there. Lisa Solis DeLong, DeLong. Are you going to post? I'm super happy to learn more about this International Hustle Salsa Congress Miami thing you're doing
Yeah.
for your 55th birthday.
Yeah.
Will you be posting about that too?
Yes. So I all my blogs go first to Facebook. That's my safe place. Like I feel like, okay, this was a big deal. I'm being very honest.
I feel the same way.
My sweet husband is like, okay, this is not, like really, you're going to go write about dancing with another man, really?
and then once you share it there, then will it go to griefdance.wordpress.com?
Yes. So anyway, you can find me on Facebook. That's the easiest way to get in touch with what's going on with that. But the blog itself is, you can reply and comment. I'm watching that very closely. It's my new baby, so I have to take care of it. And so that's going to be fun. That's the weekend of April 29th. So from now until then, I'll keep blogging about that. And beyond that, I do weave in the importance of healing things that we can do around grief and why dance is so valuable to me. And the things I'm discovering at this up-leveling of kind of dance where I have to really dig deep to make my body move the way it's supposed to look. It's really quite funny.
Is the cha-cha 2 steps forward, 2 steps back kind of thing too?
Yeah, kind of. But it's hustle that I'm doing. And hustle is a unique kind of dance.
And life is a hustle.
It is a hustle.
You're listening to Dr. Proctor here on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS here on your hometown station. We'll be back next Thursday, noon to 1.